What's up, everybody? So I'm back with part 3 of Kathleen Zellner's latest filing on behalf of Steven Avery in an attempt to get him an evidentiary hearing. The first 2 parts will be linked in the description below. We're going to pick right up where we left off on part 2. The appellate court correctly noted that Steven Avery cannot definitely prove Bobby Dassey's schedule by relying on affidavits of his computer expert, Gary Hunt. Steven Avery has added additional evidence, including the affidavit of Blaine Dassey and the police interviews regarding the family member's schedule. Importantly, the motive evidence has to be re-evaluated in light of the new evidence of the direct connection and opportunity of Bobby Dassey to have actually committed the murder and planted the evidence against Steven Avery. The appellate court did not consider this new evidence, ruling as follows. This is instead a distinct issue that the circuit court should have resolved on a standalone basis through a new Wisconsin statute. Pornography searches were relevant in the investigation of Teresa Halbach's murder. The state claims in its response that Steven Avery's connection that considered pornography as evidence of motive is false. The hypocrisy of the state's argument is vividly illustrated by the fact that on March 10, 2006, the state filed an amended information against Steven Avery, adding the charge of sexual assault, among others. The amended charge was the result of Brendan Dassey's confession on March 1, 2006. The only plausible reason that law enforcement spent substantial time after the April 21st seizure of the Dassey computer collecting and analyzing the pornography on the computer was to corroborate Brendan's confession by establishing a sexual assault motive for Teresa Halbach's murder. The state's electronic data investigator created word searches relevant to the murder and attempted to connect these specific words to the content of the Dassey computer. Significantly, Steven Avery's trailer and his computer were also searched extensively for pornography, and none was found. So he's going to someone else's house to look at his porn. The detective was asked to generate a report of Steven Avery's computer based on the detective's report. No apparent searches of pornography and or sexual images were made, and no websites with apparent sexual and or pornography images were accessed. The clear working theory of the investigators that the murder of Teresa Halbach was motivated by a sexual assault as described in Brendan's confession. Other motives were ruled out, such as robbery against Teresa Halbach, who had no known enemies. In Judge Willis's January 25, 2010 order denying Steven Avery post-conviction relief, Judge Willis explained that while neither the state nor the defense was able to offer any direct evidence of motive for Steven Avery or anyone else to have wanted to murder Teresa Halbach, it is not fair to say that either party regarded her murder for a motiveless crime. Clearly, there was a motive for Teresa Halbach's murder. Sexual assault is a frequent motive in the murder of young women. There is clearly an established correlation between compulsively and obsessively viewing pornography and sexual assault. Steven Avery's expert on sexual homicide, Ann Burgess, relying on 30 years of research that there is a well-established causal connection between pornography consumption and violent behaviors. In paragraph 51 of Steven Avery's third motion for post-conviction relief, Steven Avery supports his argument with Dr. Burgess opined. The state, in response, completely ignores and overlooks the expert opinion of Dr. Burgess, who provided expert deposition testimony in a Wisconsin premise liability sexual assault case. Because the state charged Steven Avery with sexual assault on March 10, 2006, the Dassey computer was seized by law enforcement on April 21, 2006. Law enforcement made great efforts to extract all the pornography from the Dassey computer and even went as far to have the detective conduct specific word searches related to the murder in an effort to connect the pornography to the murder. The CD contains the state's recovered pornography images relevant to the material of the Teresa Halbach murder. On the CD, he refined 4,099 images on 7 CDs and recovered 1,625 violent images that had been deleted. The CD contained thousands of images of violent pornography criteria, word searches, registry, internet history, Windows history, and all MSN messages, all of which revealed a propensity for sexual violence. There were 2,632 word searches performed by the detective of words that he believed were directly related to the crime, including blood, body, bondage, bullet, cement, DNA, fire, gas, gun, handcuff, journal, RAV4, stab, throat, and tires. In response, the state only refers to the detective's CD word searches for news, body, journal, and cement, leaving out the other searches and claiming that the mere fact that someone searched for those things doesn't show anything similar related to the crime. The state claims that Steven Avery gives no explanation how any of the search terms are relevant to an individual's motive for this murder. However, the state chooses these few cherry-picked words and ignores the rest to minimize the importance of word searches, taking the terms in context of Teresa Halbach's murder and its potential motive. All of these terms are relevant. 2 bullets from a gun pierced her skull. There was a fire ignited by gas and tires which burned her body. She may have been handcuffed. She bled in her vehicle, so she may have been stabbed. Her DNA was found on a bullet, and she did keep a journal. Timing of searches. In its response, the state concedes that Bobby Dassey is at least connected to 3 of the most violent searches on Teresa Halbach's murder. But the state inadvertently conceded that Bobby Dassey is connected to 25 of the searches after Teresa Halbach's murder. More importantly, Bobby Dassey cannot be eliminated by the state from any of the pornographic searches, especially the ones conducted prior to and very close in time to Teresa Halbach's murder. The individual performing the searches was becoming obsessively deviant in the weeks before Teresa Halbach's murder. The state fails to consider that the motive for the crime as a sexual assault that turned into murder, so all of the pornography images are relevant. All of the evidence appears to point to Bobby Dassey conducting the searches in question on weekdays, but it is necessary to have an evidentiary hearing to definitely determine if it was him. Based upon the findings of Mr. Gary Hunt, Steven Avery's forensic computer expert, 667 sexual content searches were performed in total. Of those total searches, 562 were performed on 10 weekdays between 6 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. Therefore, 64 sexual content searches were performed prior to Teresa Halbach's murder between 6 a.m. and 3:45 p.m. when Bobby was supposedly at home alone. Another 500 searches were performed in the same time frame after the murder when Bobby was also supposedly home alone. The state has focused on a subset of 128 searches that Mr. Hunt identified, which comprised very specific image searches focused on pain, torture, humiliation, and death inflicted upon women. All right, that's where I'm going to leave part 3. I'll be right back with part 4. Let me know what you think of this section of the motion filed by Kathleen Zellner. Let me know. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I'll see you again soon.